Hey folks, so this is Inside Out 2. It's a bit of a not a very late review. It came out yesterday, and so I thought we should talk about it. So, Inside Out 2, let's get straight into the review. So, we know that this is, of course, a sequel to the first one, and I'm very happy to say that this is truly a return to a Pixar classic. I know everybody has heard that before, but in a time where Pixar really has been struggling, it's a truly refreshing comeback. I think although it is a sequel, it's nice to see a sequel that everyone was hoping for. And so to start, it is a worthy sequel. All the characters have now come back, and it was just very charming to see them come. And we see the 13-year-old Riley, who has grown up, and she is still practicing her sport hockey. And so we're introduced to the new characters later on. But I love how Pixar has done something that it has normally been very good at. And that is that it has brought together kids and adults and has made a movie that is so relatable to all of them. So what we see in the film revolves around anxiety. And of course there's the character anxiety. And although anxiety is really not something that I feel like is experienced uh, with teenagers all that much, although they do have anxiety, but it's less of an existential anxiety and more of like a what I might call a short-term anxiety. But nonetheless, it's taken a premise that both kids and adults can relate to. So even though it's the anxiety is being experienced by a 13-year-old girl, adults can look at that and find that they can also experience very similar things because this is a pretty existential film. Well, at least compared to the first one, it's not existential in the way that Soul was, but it is still very existential. And although it's experienced by a lot of kids, and again, although not in the same way, both kids and adults can watch this and can gain something from it. Young teenagers or students can watch that and they can basically, in a way, relate to it. Maybe not necessarily to some of the existential components, but they can still watch it and understand. And the adults can definitely get the existential component of the film. And I feel like that's something that I think that Pixar is just really good at. They take this premise and they make it relatable to both adults and to kids. And I think it's really remarkable that Pixar has done something like that. And in a while, I think their last slate of films were, were decent, but I think this is truly something that Pixar is very, very good at. Making truly a film about, with about kids and adults in a sense, and that the character anxiety is the main antagonist of the film. And although this time all the characters get screen time and are actually much more relevant to the story. I think in the first one we had sadness and joy being the two major components, whereas the other characters were there. They filled a purpose. They fulfilled a purpose, but I think the entire sort of theme of the movie of the first one was that sadness and joy really go hand in hand and they're necessary. Whereas I think in this one, all of our emotions as we get older are going to play more and more of a role, and we're going to be more and more conscious about you know our feelings, and we're going to be communicating very differently, and we're going to need all these different emotions. And and again, I think this was such a fun film. I think it was better than the first one. I feel like it was in a way more educational, but also much more fun, much more serious. And I feel that young kids and teenagers will get that as well. And they're just basically a little bit of nitpicking, I would say. I would say that some scenes from or rather not scenes, but some aspects from the first film were recycled into this film. Like they tried to use an emotional scene from the first one in the second one, and but it didn't have the same impact. Whereas most of but that's just nitpicking. All the rest of the film was new and fresh, and the ideas were fresh. The emotional scenes were all different, and because we have equal time now with the new emotions, the older, the ones from the first film, the first five. and and of course Riley too. Like Riley is much more central to the movie, as well as the older emotions and the new emotions. And of course, there are these little, you know, sort of neat Pixarisms, like cleverisms that I like to say. Like for example, there's a scene where they're traversing through some danger, and then they go through through what they call a brainstorm. It's basically like a storm, and there's like light bulbs, acting like like basically like raindrops or hail, and basically, and I think those you have those Pixar cleverisms. So it wasn't like other films where it's just kind of a background thing. It's kind of relevant to the story. And then you have the sarcasm that's from the trailer, right? Sarcasm, like you yell across the chasm, and whatever you say comes off as sarcastic. And again, it's just like those little cleverisms, right? The Pixar cleverisms that I like to call is all there. And but other than that, the whole film is just really colorful and brilliant, and just the fact that you have all these characters now being portrayed seriously, even more than the first one. Riley gets more screen time. It's about Riley, but it's also about the older emotions. And of course, anxiety controls everything. And then you have your embarrassment, your envy, your boredom. They fulfill a decent enough role, but they're necessary. You don't want it to just be anxiety. You want introduction to new characters. And I'm just really excited for, not that this is going to happen anytime soon, but the third one is going to be, I'm sure, not coming out anytime soon, but the third one will probably be about, new emotions like love, and Riley will be in her 20s and stuff like that. And like I said, I think this is the Pixar that everybody wanted. This is the Pixar movie that everybody was hoping for. And like I said, other than the fact that they just recycled some scenes from the first one, or not scenes, but just they used some tropes. It's nitpicky. It's not common throughout the story. Everything about this story is just fresh and new, and and it's just something that I think is fun for the whole family to watch. And of course, there's all these other things that I can sort of bring up, like the belief, the tree of belief, or it looks like a tree, but they call it like the belief. And so it shows you that this film is much more serious. Like Riley has now been a teenage. She's now a teenager, and she's not. She's still young. She's still a kid, but she's not like 9 or 8 anymore. Like she has she's developing these more complicated emotions, and it's just perfect for a sequel. Like I said, I mean, there should be probably a third one. Maybe not anytime soon, but that's basically my review of the film. I would say go watch it. It's a lot of fun. All the cleverisms are in there. You'll love the new characters, and just enjoy. And that's basically what I would give Inside Out to. I would say go watch it. 9 out of 10. Have fun, and that's basically my review. Thanks for listening.